Okay, so this is it. This is the question. This just struck me. What are you looking for? What are you guys looking for? I do want to hear from you in the comments. I always want to hear from you in the comments. And I do pay attention, at least for the first few days. But what are you looking for? How has your system changed? How has it evolved over the last 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, whatever time frame you choose? You're learning how to listen, and it's like a feedback loop. You learn how to listen, and then you make changes where you can, right? I think that's fascinating, right? So I guess it comes down to, what are you listening for? You know, some people are hung up on bass, some people want to play music loud, some people want to play music very quietly, right? Or sound stage, all these things. It's a priority list, basically. So how has that changed over time? And when you start, assuming you started when you were pretty young, you know, maybe you're into just partying and cranking it and just, you know, and as you age, you find yourself listening more quietly. I don't know. I'm asking. It's an open-ended question. I do want to hear from you and how that worked out. Now, depending on your age again, you may have started out in the analog era, pre-digital, you know, pre-80s time. So everybody pretty much was listening to LPs or tape. Those were your options, or the radio. And then comes digital. So then some people instantly dumped their analog stuff and went full bore into digital. And many are still there, and some were there for a while and came back, right? That's fascinating, isn't it? Because if you started analog and went to digital because you said, oh, I'm tired of scratches and noises and warp records, etc., digital is clean. There's none of that to think about. You pop in the CD and away you go. Or now you scroll and you stream, and it's so easy, right? So that's part of it. But then some of us who were all in digital came back to analog. That's really interesting, right? Because you know what it was. You've had this big chunk of time in between listening to digital, and then you're back in analog. Anyway, before I forget, yes, there will be an audiophiliac viewer system of the day later on in the show. You know, I'm not a measurement person. I am not. But I do have a, quote, measurement that I think is the best measurement of all. And that is, are you listening more to your system now than you did before? Because that's it. Those hours that you spend listening every day or a few days a week or whatever it is, if you're listening to your system more now than you did 5 years or 10 years or 20 years ago, that's the best indication of all that you are enjoying your music, which is what this is all about. But that's what we're here for. So the more you listen, you're in. And the less you listen, not a good sign. Something should change to get you back in, assuming you're still really passionate about music. But yeah, if you're listening more, you're on the right track. If you're listening less, yeah, I know life gets in the way sometimes. But if you just find other things to do than listening to your system, it may be time to leave the group, or maybe time to figure out how to get back in and, you know, make your system sound better, that you're enjoying it more. I want to know, where do you stand on that? But I think, well, you know, it's that thing. It's that line. You have to know what you're looking for to find it. And that is something, it's your ears are getting educated. There's a lot of, it's complicated, right? And then circumstances changed. Maybe you moved, right? So you go from one house or apartment to another. Your acoustics and stuff are completely different. And you have to deal with that. Maybe it's better in your new place. Maybe it's worse. Maybe you got into room treatments or DSP, or room correction, I should say. So how did you deal with it as circumstances changed? When you started, you had kids. Now your kids are grown. So some of us have been audiophiles for a long time, 10 years or more. And then things change, right? Well, here's an example. My friend Mark, who's made many videos here on the channel, great looking videos, by the way, and I will link to some of them below. But anyway, he's an editor by profession, so his videos are really well done. He's a very thoughtful man. Anyway, he went through this period a ways back where he stopped listening to his system. He was, commuting on train, and he was listening to music on earbuds, and he was a happy camper. He didn't need a system anymore. He didn't sell it. He just packed it away. It was in his basement. And then he went back. He said, let me try it again. He started listening, and he got back in. He got back into the thing of being an audiophile. And he changed the speakers, and, he got Maggie's, which he had never had before. I think he still has them, and he's 100% in the tribe now. But he had a long vacation of being out of it. So if that's something that you've done, where you were in and then you were out for a period, I want to hear from you guys. And are you enjoying it more now? That's the question than then. So I've been listening, speaking of listening a lot, I've been listening a lot to the Kinks and Dr. John. Yeah, there's something going on there. And I keep playing my CDs and my LPs of those two bands, like 3 or 4 in a row, because I just love it. I connect to this music. It's a part of my life. Dr. John, man, he just had this mojo. I mean, I remember seeing him in clubs back in the 60s when he came out with a Viking outfit with horns on his hat. This crazy guy, but he just had this voodoo. He had this magic, this earthiness, this primal sound. It just was great. But on the other hand, the Kinks, I was so into the Kinks. And Ray Davies as a performer and a songwriter, he was very, very British. His perspective on life and music was British sounding, while all the other major bands of the 60s, British bands, sounded very American, like they're trying to sound American. The Beatles were trying to sound like the Everly Brothers, and stuff. It's weird. And the Stones were very blues. They were very American-influenced bands, these other British bands. But the Kinks were the Kinks. They were in their early records, their first 10 years or so at least, they were British. Anyway, I'm getting into them, and I just play one right after another and another. I wonder why bands that I've enjoyed for over half centuries still have this power over me. And then bands that came later on, I could be really into them, like Bright Eyes. I love Bright Eyes. When Bright Eyes started happening, I thought, here's this young guy. He's so creative. His music sounds really interesting. Every time there was a new Bright Eyes record, I'd rush out to buy it. I was really, really into it. And then he kind of slacked off in terms of putting out music. And then I realized I never go back to listening to Bright Eyes records. And when I do, I listen to them and think, it's okay. And then there's Stephen Merritt's band, Magnetic Field. See, I don't remember the name of the band. But anyway, Stephen Merritt's music, I loved it. I really, really did. Because this is in the early 2000s or so. Do I listen to it now? Very rarely. So I don't know how that works. That later music, and certainly nowadays when I'm streaming music, I find stuff I like, and then I find other stuff I like and other stuff, and none of it sticks, or very little of it, like, this is somebody I'm going to have, this is a band or an artist that I'm going to have a long-term relationship with. I want to really, really get in deep with current bands. Like Arcade Fire, man, when I started with Arcade Fire with Funeral, I loved them. They were so good. Those rhythms, this violin, all that stuff was happening. I loved them. And then every succeeding record, I liked them less. And now when I go back, even when I listen to Funeral, the first record for me, I don't know, doesn't do that much. So, it's a journey, man. We're figuring this out one day at a time, one record at a time, Part 2 of this episode today, though, is about audio companies that have lasted, really in for the long term. And the first one that popped into mind, which isn't quite 50 years old, is Wilson Audio in Utah. I mean, Dave Wilson was, he kind of created the prototype of what expensive high-end speakers were. And he died a few years ago, and his son Daryl is carrying on. And I think that's a beautiful thing, that it's a family business. It's not owned by some investment company. They're out there making great speakers and happy to do so. And Richard Vandersteen, who I've known for over 50 years, or 45 years actually, And I love Vandersteen speakers, and I hope to review one Vandersteen this summer, a pair of Vandersteens. He's amazing. He's got such a great story. I'm not going to get into the story now, but incredible company. Still a family-owned business. There are other companies that have lasted, like Marantz. But Marantz, the company, has been bought and sold. And I can't keep count of how many times and who actually owns it right now. But there's not much left of what Saul Marantz created in the first place except the logo of Marantz. Maybe I'm missing something there. Or Denon. Denon is, I think, 110 years old. But again, it's been bought and sold, so what's Denon about Denon? I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of them out there. Tannoy, again, I don't think its history is quite as zigzaggy as the others, but again, very, very old company, great company. And Klipsch, Paul Klipsch started his company in 1946. It was a family-owned business up until fairly recently, I guess like 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, but the company that now owns Klipsch has let Klipsch be Klipsch. They're making their traditional speakers still in Arkansas, their heritage line, like the Cornwalls that I have. Great company, has stayed true to its roots of horn speaker design. And McIntosh, right here in New York State, still going strong, I think also from the 1940s. Again, McIntosh has been sold a few times, but McIntosh, again, is a company that really is, especially in their two products, true to their roots. Very, very impressive. Still made here in the USA, in New York State. Koetsu, now, the cartridge company. Again, I think Koetsus are now made by the Sun. Then there's Grado. Now, I just reviewed the Grado Epoch 3, their flagship cartridge. But Grado was started by Joe Grado in 1953, making cartridges and tone arms and turntable-related stuff. And then in the 90s, his nephew, John, took over the company, now owns the company. So it's a family-owned business. They make headphones and cartridges here in Brooklyn, same as ever. Yeah, I think that's incredible. Then there's Name. You know, I didn't look at when Name was founded. It's a British company, makes electronics, great stuff. I hope to be reviewing some this summer possibly, or later this year. But anyway, a company that's been around for the long haul. So anyway, I'm fascinated by companies that can do that year after year, stick around in a very chaotic market. The audio business has always been. And I think that says something about the industry as a whole, that so many companies have lasted. Not all of them, obviously, but many, many have. And I think that's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, yes, it is now time for the Audiophiliac Viewer System of the Day. Hey, this one comes from Tim. He lives in downtown Natchez, Mississippi. And he's got a nice little system there with that Rysung A10 tube amplifier, Blue Sound Node streamer, and Klipsch Heresy 4 speakers. He's new to the audiophile world, Tim says, and my channel, this channel here, is one of his favorite sources of information. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. All right, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the Audiophiliac. Yes, if you dig the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. You can join for a couple of dollars a month, up to $50 a month. If you join for $50, you and I will have a conversation every month at the beginning of the month. And I get so much out of these conversations. I love hearing from the people who watch the channel. If you just want to subscribe, please do. We just hit 217,000 subscribers worldwide. It's incredible. And please, if you like the videos, please hit that like button. It's important to the algorithm and therefore important to me. And after that, I can just say thank you again for watching. And I really, really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.